Welcome to the Sandwich Generation podcast, a resource for adults balancing the dual responsibilities of raising children and caring for aging parents. Whether you're helping your parents downsize, explore real estate options, navigating caregiving, or looking for practical advice to help your family thrive, this is the place for you. Join us as we bring you expert insights, heartfelt stories, and actionable items to support you and your family within this unique generation.
Okay, now you want to know what we're talking about? We're talking about you.
All things Shannon today.
Oh, great. This should be easy then.
You're in the hot seat.
Yeah. I feel like I'm still getting over this like pneumonia stuff. And so I'm like, ooh, I have my deep, sexy. No, it's really just because. Yeah.
You have your
really
podcast
I've
voice
been
now.
I
I know. Are you going to get an air quality test, Sarah?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like the summer colds are the worst, and they linger forever.
Yeah, it gets better
hot outside.
I think, yeah. I get better as the day goes on, but it's like morning time. I'm like hacking up. So, if you see me muted and making obscene like motions over here, that's what's happening. Sorry.
Some podcasters have this button on their microphone, like it's a hot button that they can push and turn their microphone off while they cough.
I need that. I need a hot button.
We're not that high tech around here.
No, I need a hot button for a lot of things in life right now, but
hotkeys, is that what they're called? Hotkeys?
Yeah, something.
Well,
yeah. We are excited to have Shannon on the podcast today. Shannon Harris, who is part of our team at Seniors Real Estate Experts, but also has so much more to give us with her background. So, yeah, I think Lisa and I both just thought you would be a great person to kind of chat with and get your little insights on your role and background of working in long-term care and how that, has shaped what you do now. And also, I think you probably have some great tips and things that you can share with some of our listeners as far as things to be mindful of when they're going down that path of long-term care, all of that. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Shannon, about your background and what brings you to this point in your life here?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. How exciting. So I started in long-term care 25 years ago and working in a skilled nursing facility. I worked in the office in payroll and benefits for several years. And then decided to kind of take a little turn and do some social service stuff and really enjoyed getting to know residents and families. And that eventually led me to becoming an administrator. So for the last 12 years, I've been an administrator of a couple of different nursing facilities in central Indiana. And over the course of that time, have had the opportunity to kind of see exactly what you guys talk about on a monthly basis with the sandwich generation. So I work with seniors who are, living in nursing facilities or needing to come in. They could also be coming into assisted living, and then also their families and kind of how to help them navigate, kind of what next steps are for them and the feelings that they have around all of that. And a couple of years ago, I started Shannon Harris Consulting and Success Development because I wanted to continue to grow good leaders in our industry. I think it's really important to have administrators and executive leadership in long-term care help understand what kind of happens down here on the front lines, but also to have really good leadership skills so that they can help those families and loved ones navigate those difficult topics, because that's exactly what we see every day, right? And then had the opportunity to meet Lisa Treadwell and Sara McCord and jump into real estate. And all of my family and friends are like, "You're crazy. You already have things on your plate. Like, what are you even doing?" And so I had to share, like, I feel like it's such a good segue, and I don't get to be in the buildings as much anymore. So I still get to touch that older generation, which is kind of my passion, my love. And, and then also still get to talk with and meet with families. So, their kids are helping them, whatever, through the downsizing process is going to look like, and getting them into a new environment, whether that be a new house, a condominium that's, less maintenance, or they're moving into, retirement communities. And so that in itself is exciting to me, and it's something new. And I'm sure you guys have felt the same way when you've kind of started something different. It's like, I don't know anything. So, just taking in all the knowledge.
But you do, though, so much.
But it's been really fun. So yeah, I feel like I have a lot of things going, but I feel like it's all very connected to senior living and long-term care. For that, I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well,
you have worked the gamut. I mean, next you're going to be going to nursing school, and you're going to be a chef so you can work in the food services area of the senior communities. You're just going to maybe you just need to open your own senior community at this rate, right?
Okay, so funny story. When when my team, my team that I left when I started my consulting company, we all said, okay, we just want somebody to own a nursing home, and we're all coming to work there.
Yeah,
right? We're all good friends. We're all professionals in what we do. And I was like, okay, like, never say never. Good. That could really happen.
Yeah,
it is absolutely happen.
Oh, for sure. And definitely once you've worked in that industry, in that environment, in a retirement community, assisted living, long-term care, whatever it is, skilled nursing, you can literally I could handpick a staff right now that I would put in a building, and it would be rock star building.
I so agree.
Yeah, it's just, you don't forget those people that are truly impactful when you work in that industry. So, yeah.
Well, and a good team makes the world go round, right? Like, we worked together for a lot of years. And so I know them, I know their work ethic. And so, yeah, I jokingly tell them that. I'm like, okay, well, hang in there. Maybe one day.
Yeah. The having good leaders. And I think that is like, I just commend you for what you do, because I don't think people really understand the stress that falls on that administrator in that community. And I mean, I want to talk a bit about that, but because I think it will help families that are transitioning their parents into that type of living environment kind of have an understanding of what goes on behind the scenes. But I worked with many great administrators, but my all-time, hands down boss I've ever had, and I'll say his name, Larry Allen. He continues to be just such an important person in my life and mentor. I mean, this weekend we were texting back and forth for a long time. He was just checking on other people that we know in the industry. Have you talked to so-and-so? Have you heard? And I mean, he retired. Just goes to tell you how much, if you have a good administrator, how much their heart is in it. But he retired, gosh, I want to say, when did I have my place? So probably around 2013. But he never actually retired. He continues to be an interim administrator, different places, and go in and mentor new leaders that are coming into communities and that sort of thing. And so we were texting over the weekend, and I'm like, so are you still working 50%? And he's like, yeah, 45 hours a week or so.
45.
Yeah. And so, I mean, he's been retired over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, well, as long as you enjoy it. And he says, you know what? I do. Working apparently is my hobby. And then he, of course, makes me laugh. And he's like, and I still have 10% of my mental faculties remaining. So I'm like, hey,
Nice.
you know, but, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, when he is in a community that things are going to go well. And that says a lot. And we need more people like that to come in and replace those people that are trying to retire. Like, and,
Absolutely.
Yep.
you know,
That says a lot for the kind of people that are in this industry who just love helping seniors and like work as his hobby. I mean, there are great people like that in this industry, which I mean is one of the reasons, one of the beauties that uh, transitioning our brokerage over to specializing exclusively in that. When I started meeting people in the seniors industry, that was one of my favorite things, is that
mhm.
there's so many great, passionate people for this work. So
Yeah.
that's good.
There's a statistic out there. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but you know, when you have young people who start off working in the dietary department or as a CNA in long-term care, and the percentage of those individuals who stay in long-term care
Yeah.
because they really fall in love with the clientele. And so I think that's really special. My oldest niece is getting ready to start her very first job in a community. And I told her, I said, don't be surprised if you never want to leave, because
Yeah.
that's just how it happens. And
Mhm.
you can go to any facility and ask, you know, what's the longest tenured employee that you have? And some of them have been
Mhm.
there 20, 30, 40 years
Mhm.
working in whatever position they have. So, but you're so right, Sarah. I think that when you have a passion for what you do and you enjoy, you know, working with vulnerable populations who you have to advocate for, then you feel a real calling for that. And you're right, it probably is his hobby.
Yeah.
Not only does he want to see and be around seniors who need him, but also he enjoys leading a team, and the team
Yeah.
needs him too. And so that's what I find. And that's what I'm seeing right now through, you know, through the businesses. There's a lot of individuals who are interested in long-term care, and like, how do I get them into it and passionate about it so that they stay, especially if they're good,
Yeah.
because our seniors deserve that.
Mhm.
We need to get into the high schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, when I worked in the community that I worked in for many years, it has a different name now, so I'm not gonna even say it, but, the dietary staff that came in working as 15 and 16-year-old waiters and waitresses in the dining room, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but the percentage that were still in that building, but in a
Mhm.
management capacity or working as a nurse, um, I mean, there was a lot there. I mean, it was really impressive. And, you know, you said you came in doing more like administrative office stuff. I did too.
Mhm.
Um, when I, you know, like that's how you fall in love with this population and how, you know, you're just in it for forever. It feels like, you know, I started working in a physical therapy clinic where people were coming in with their knee replacements and hip replacements and that kind of thing. And you either love it or you don't. And then so when I started working in the community, I was working as a business office manager just because I wanted to be in that, you know, environment. And then, you know, pretty quickly transitioned into more of like the marketing and admissions role. But yeah, I mean, you just there are a lot of people that work in these communities that have transitioned through different levels, different areas in the community and continue to get more education so that they can do different things. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of times people are going into, you know, we hear bad, right? Like no matter what it is, if it's a restaurant that someone's visited, you hear more, people are more willing to talk about the bad, which,
Yeah.
you know, is we need to know those things too, but I just wish more people would share the good.
Good stories.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, because there are so many good. And so I think because of that, a lot of families, when they start this transition, or even the senior themselves
Mhm.
starts to think about, okay, is this going to be the next step for me? Am I going to have to move to a community? They're hearing the bad too. And so I just would love to be able to kind of change that narrative and get people thinking more about the good and sharing the good, because there is way more of that actually than there is the bad. But
Well, I think most families don't know much about senior living until they're in a crisis mode.
Yeah.
And so then their options are severely, limited, and, potentially very, very limited. Shannon, what is something that you wish everybody kind of understood before they are in crisis mode so that they're not approaching senior communities
Yeah,
like that?
I was going to say, like, how to tie this all together to your listeners is use your resources and don't be afraid to ask questions. If mom or dad or grandma, grandpa are trending in that direction, it is so great to gather information. It doesn't hurt anything to have a little
Yeah.
bit of information before you're in crisis mode. I always said that people don't know what they don't know until they need to know it. And then they can't even take it in because all
No.
that information is
It's like
coming
drinking
so
through a fire
fast.
hose.
Yeah.
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 You're probably feeling that right now, joining a seniors real estate expert,
Yes.
even though you know a ton and you're going to be fine because you're a fast
Yes.
learner. But imagine being in a crisis and then having to do research and take in. We talk about Dave Holder a lot. He's kind of our buyer's agent, except for senior communities. When we tour typical buyers, we we don't look at more than 4 houses in one showing period because they all run together after that. For a senior community, it's really just one a day. And so can you imagine, because there's so much to take in, can you imagine being in crisis mode, as a sandwich generation, helping your parents? Somebody had a stroke or a fall and they've broken their hip and they're in the hospital, and they can't go home, so you're in crisis and trying to take in all of the options and find the best one for your mom or dad. I mean, it's just not, you're setting yourself up, everyone up for failure.
And everybody's situation is different in what they're looking for, right? Sometimes if families are feeling a lot of guilt, they want mom or dad or grandma, grandpa to be close to them. And so they're looking at facilities that might be close to them, and their options might be limited on quality, right? So, and if somebody needs specifically a dementia unit, they're the number of ones that are close to them might be very limited. So it really depends on what they're looking for. I think my best advice would just be to, be proactive. Trying to do that with my own family right now, and just understanding, what can happen over the next several years, because nobody knows. And so a little bit of preparedness, if you will, can alleviate a lot of stress down the road. And it might seem silly to talk about things now, but, I've had this conversation with my own parents and my grandmother. It's, they want to have those conversations. And I think people are scared to have conversations about, well, what if this, or what if this, or when this happens. But I promise you, and this is what I tell them, I promise you, if we talk about it now, then I still get to be the daughter, but I don't have to be stressed out as the daughter. Right. And so I try to share that with people who come to me.
I was just going to ask, do you get pushback from your own family just because it's your family? Like, sometimes people receive information when it's from a third party, even though their family member could have been telling them the same thing all along, but they receive it differently from a third party.
I think my family is very normal in the sense that we talk about it and then we don't act on it. You know what I mean? So we'll have conversations and we're like, oh, we need to do that paperwork, or, oh, we need to talk about this. And then, 4 months later, we're like, oh, we should talk about this. And I'm like, yeah, we were talking about it 4 months ago. So I think a lot of families that happens to, they start the conversation, they just don't act upon certain things. And having advanced directives and living wills and, all the things in place early, so that it's not what you're scrambling for when somebody's in the hospital or needing to move into a nursing facility because something tragic happened. So I think, my family is great. They appreciate the expertise, but I think they're very, very normal in the sense that, we're not real quick to, get all the paperwork done like we should. So.
Mhm.
Well, you're making the conversations normal conversations, which is great. A great way to approach, any topic that could be, um, that could initiate high emotions, like money, or
Mhm.
which does come into the conversation when we talk about downsizing or moving into a long-term care community, or so it sounds like you're having those conversations regularly, so they're just normal conversations, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely money and property become, hot topics. And
Yeah.
those are things you can't take with you. So what, I always want to know, what do you want to happen, right? If your
Mm.
parents or grandparents are able to have those conversations to make their own wishes known, like, what does she want or what does he want? And then start
Yeah.
moving towards that. Like
Mhm.
that's, and that's the legacy they get to leave. Like we don't talk about that enough, I feel like. Sharing that, how hard your parents or grandparents worked in their life and what are they sharing with the next generation? Maybe nothing, or maybe we want them to use every ounce of it that they have while they're here on earth, right? And that's okay too.
Mhm.
But talking about it and normalizing that conversation. I like how you put that, Lisa, because I think that is so true.
Yeah. I
Good
think
stuff.
people also don't understand, like, so having the conversation, like if you have, you know, both of your parents still living, or grandparents, whoever were assisting or helping, but if they're both living and they are living together and they function well together as a unit, um, how many times we see when you're working in a community setting, the families come in because one of that unit has passed away, and then the person remaining is not able to continue living in that environment on their own. They worked great as a unit. We've talked about this before on the podcast. But, once one of them is gone, like, what are the steps then? And so those can be awkward conversations too, because not only are you talking about what the next step
Mm.
is, but you're talking about one of you's going to die first, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
what, Um, because that is, we used to have families that would come in all the time, and pretty regularly that would be the situation where, you know, um, dad had passed away, or grandpa, and now we realize how much more assistance grandma actually needed that grandpa was helping with,
Yeah.
or vice versa, whatever. But um
Or
that
that
those
spouse was hiding.
yeah, yeah,
That
that
happens. I see that a
they
lot, right?
yeah, they function together really well, but just can't do the they were working really well as one unit, and then you take half of that away and we realize where all the little things lie that, the other person was handling or assisting with, and now they just can't do it. So, I mean, I think those are conversations people need to have too, like, okay, you guys are functioning really well together here in the house, let's stay here as long as we can, but if something and when something happens to one of you, like, what would you want to do then?
Yeah.
Um, and Lisa and we talked about the money part. We were talking about this the other day, just with I don't know, I think just you and I, but the cost difference. Like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
you want to stay at home. Okay, well, let's do that until what? Like, what is
Yeah.
the daily amount of care that we're going to require at home that then transitions to this does not make sense any longer financially, and we need to make that move
Hmm.
into assisted living or whatever, because in-home care, depending on how much care you need, can rack up really quickly. And so then that $6,000 a month you're paying at an assisted living or whatever actually looks pretty good
Yeah.
compared to what you would have been paying in home. So
If they stayed at home. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just interesting, and so many things to think about for families, that it really truly does make a difference if you can start having those conversations early.
And like I said, people don't know what they don't know until they need to know it.
Mhm.
There are resources out there. There are a lot of professionals who talk about hypothetical situations all the time, right? So if you have a
Yeah.
question about what if, my spouse passes, or what if my spouse is to the point where I can't care for them anymore? what would happen and how would I pay for that? And so talking through those conversations even just eliminates a little bit of anxiety of even knowing the unknown. Now you kind of have an idea, okay, maybe you get, an opinion of a couple different people, professionals, whether it be an elder law attorney, whether it be somebody who's, a leadership professional in long-term care, somebody could be a resource like our group with seniors real estate experts, things that we've seen, situations that we've walked families through. I know we're all happy to talk about that and how this one ended or how that one ended or how we've helped walk through this space. And so I think one of the things that rooted the senior living series that you guys do on a monthly basis helps is bringing those professionals
that we do
yes.
now.
It brings all those professional people from different topics in, and then okay, now the individuals that come to those have resources and using them.
Yes, and I'm excited that to have your perspective on our team collectively, because it's a great perspective full of experience. And what you touched on just now is that no two situations are exactly the same. They might have, something similar, but every situation is just nuanced with its own set of challenges or, situation to consider. Yeah. Which is exciting when you get bored easily because and you're a problem solver by nature, and you like helping people because it kind of puts all of those things together. So
I think you hit that right on the head. We are problem solvers for other people's situations.
And counselors and therapists.
It's exciting.
And all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think as moms, as professionals, we are fixers by nature. We want to make our clients, if you will, feel comfortable and feel less stressed because we do have the ability to be able to answer some questions. And if we don't, we do the same thing as everyone else. We search out the right people.
Find the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I can say this on here because I think most of our listening audience is female, but, there's been this like huge surge of women talking about perimenopause and that stage of life and like going through those transitions and what that looks like because, our mothers and our grandmothers did not share any of that information with us.
No.
So we're trying to normalize that conversation. But I also would encourage daughters and daughter-in-laws and, normalize that conversation with your friends, that also have aging parents. Ask them what they're doing or where they've had good experiences. And even if it's just, mom had a knee replacement and went to like short-term rehab for, 8 days or whatever it is, and 7 days, just before they went home, to talk about it. Where'd they go? What was it like? Because those are the conversations that truly are going to give you a lot of insight and maybe answer things you didn't even know. But Shannon, I wanted to ask
that you hadn't.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, working in a skilled nursing facility and, that environment, what are some of the things, like you mentioned, we don't know what we don't know until you need to know it kind of thing. What are some of the things? Yeah. What are some of the things that you felt like maybe families should be asking when they were coming in to tour or whatever, or maybe things that you made sure they knew before they left?
That they weren't asking just because they didn't.
They don't know to ask.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a preconceived idea of what skilled nursing or nursing home care is. And like you said, a lot of times the connotation is negative because that's all we hear on the news, right? Is the bad things.
It was the old nursing home that we went to visit, like went for Girl Scouts or whatever, where people are sitting in wheelchairs in the halls, like waiting to die, basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is not the truth if you're listening to this or watching.
Yes,
It's not how
absolutely.
they are anymore. Yeah.
Not
That's
the
right.
same.
And, you know, to be honest, nobody wants to go live in a nursing facility. Nobody does. Because why would you want to leave your own home with your own belongings, you know, and have somebody care for you, taking care of bodily functions of things that you've been able to do your whole life and now you can't do it.
Right.
And, you know, all of that. And we talk about that in some of my educational classes is, you know, how would you feel if today you had to move into a nursing facility? You know, what are things that you would miss or what,
Mhm.
you know, what kind of a resident would you be? And we
Mhm.
jokingly say we would be terrible because we would like, you know, we would demand all the things because we, you know, we're used to having it at our home. And so you try to put that same perspective in for an older person who is also very sensitive to change, very sensitive to environment. They're less able to care for themselves, so that makes them more vulnerable. And so I think some of the things that I try to share with families are, you know, what is a regular schedule like in the facility? You know, residents have rights. You'll learn about those if you're taking
Mhm.
your loved one into a nursing facility. You will know them immediately. They're required, they're by law to give you the rights of a resident on paper. But you know, what is a normal schedule like in a day? You know, what are the things that are offered to the residents of that facility, and how can we make this the best experience for them? You know, what are their favorite games to play, or what are their favorite, you know, what do
Mhm.
they like to do during the day? Some people just like to sit
Mhm.
and watch TV all day. That's okay.
Yeah.
Some people love to be in the dining room or in a common space chatting with new friends all day. Perfect. You know, some people love to craft. Great. Hopefully we have a great activity program. So really helping families understand, you know, what does a day in the life look like where we're not just dropping people off and letting them sit in the hallway till they die. Like that's not
Right.
how we do it.
Yeah.
But also being a good steward of the information that you can find online, or asking friends and family about, you know, the quality of a building.
Hmm.
What do their surveys look like when a surveyor, a state surveyor walks in, and they've had that, you know, a review, if you will, you know, what kinds of deficiencies have they found with that facility? And are they, you know, fixed quickly? And,
Mhm.
you know, we all make mistakes. No building is perfect. There's lots of perfect surveys, but you know that there are humans that work there. And so you're going to have situations that maybe are not ideal. But the biggest thing is how do we own and how do we fix it quickly? And I think those are the things that you want to look at in a facility. And those are great questions for an administrator. Don't be afraid to ask to talk to the head person.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you want, as a family member, I would want to know who that leader is of the facility. Are they a people person? You know, can I walk in their office whenever I come in and just say hi? And know that if I have a burning question or if I have something that concerns me about my loved one in your building, I want to be able to get a hold of you immediately. And I think if you have a good leader in that building and that building shows that, that's exactly where I would place my loved one.
Mhm.
What does a well-run community look like behind the scenes, and then also from the perspective of a family touring?
In my opinion, I think a well-run facility has smiling staff who are always willing to be looking up and saying hello. You have people who are kind, and you can see that the minute that you walk in the building, you can feel it. I think that you have residents that look and seem happy, if you will.
Mhm.
Not every resident is happy all the time, but if you have people who seem content or would say hello to a stranger, I think that says a lot about, you know, the environment of your community. Does it smell good? You know, that's
Mhm.
kind of the very first thing that you
No.
take in when you walk in a building. What does it smell like? And so, you know, knowing what their staffing is, and every building has, you know, tough situations, but how do we muddle through some of those tough situations, makes the difference between a good facility and a, you know, a mediocre facility, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We liken it to, I compare it again to shopping for a home. There are obviously things that you're looking for in a new home. And also, there's a piece of it, you touched on it just now in your answer. You said the feeling there's something that when you walk in and you say, this is the one. So there's like a piece of that, but there also are cues to look for, you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, going back to that, when you're not in an emergent situation, you can take your time to tour multiple facilities and see which one feels good to you, which one meets the needs of whatever the situation is going to be when you need to move in there, when you need the care that you're searching for. When you're in an emergent situation, sometimes you don't get that option. You know, if you're in the hospital, your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa is in the hospital and you're getting discharged tomorrow and you have to, you know, the discharge planner hands you the list of facilities and says, pick one. And there's like 20 on the list. How do you even pick one? Right. And, you know, if you
and sometimes you're just picking because, you know, this one has availability and these three didn't, you know.
That's right.
So yeah.
And I think that's going to be more prevalent as we go on with just the rate at which we're aging, the baby boomers retiring, the numbers each day. I don't have the statistics to pull, but we know that there's a housing crisis, affordable housing crisis, and safe for seniors. So when you said, Sarah, sometimes we just pick the one that has availability.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it could be a situation where maybe you have gone and done some of your homework, but your top two places, they don't have space for you right now. And so, you know, it's kind of worth knowing. And, you know, people move. That's not to say just because you pick one place doesn't mean you can't go somewhere else down the road. That happens. That happens frequently for people, you know. Sometimes it is a matter of how convenient some place is, and that convenience may not be available right at the beginning, but you know, you can maybe transition them closer to you at some point, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't want people to feel like you have to make that like it's like a one and done decision. You can transition. You can, if some place is not meeting your needs and you've addressed that, and it's not being remedied or fixed, then yeah, it's okay to take that person and find someplace else. So yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you're touring those places, talk to the residents, you know, how do you like it here? You know, how long have you been here? And, you know, what's your favorite thing about living here? It's really great to ask those questions of people that are already there, just to see what their answers are.
Yeah. And people don't, I mean, there's something to be said for residents being out in common areas and mingling with each other and with the staff. Because to me, that tells me, one, the staff wants those people out and about where they can keep eyes on them and be available to them. Whereas if they're isolated in their rooms all the time, you know, no one's seeing them quite as frequently. So I think there's something to be said for that. But also it tells you that they want to be out and about with the staff and the other residents. And you know,
that they've connected with them, that the team there at the community is connecting with the residents and the resident and vice versa.
Yeah. If you walk in and you really don't see people other than the people that work there,
that's
you know, maybe,
they better be in an activity.
It could
like,
be a
where
bad
is
sign.
everyone? Maybe they are all watching a movie in the, you know, movie theater or whatever. Like maybe they're doing that, but, you know, find them and yeah, because that's going to play into just how welcoming places are. But I also, I've talked about this before. We as like the adult child or grandchild, we go in and we have a different perception of what home looks like, right? Compared to our grandparents or our parents. Look at your parents' home compared to your home and how it's decorated and that sort of thing. So I used to have families come in all the time where, you know, the son or daughter would really enjoy one place they had already visited because it was brand new and it was fresh and it was modern. And then they would take and they'd take their parents there and they'd be like, I hate this. This is so like blah. And there's,
Sterile.
it's just not welcoming. But then you'll go visit a different community and they're like, oh, this feels more like home. And the child's looking at you like, this feels a little dated and tired to me. But yeah. And I'm like, but that's what, so put yourself in their shoes of like, what feels homey to them, because it might be different than what feels homey to you. And,
that's a good point.
Take those things into consideration, I think, too.
Yeah. Can I also say, I would encourage all of the listeners to this podcast, if you've been through situations with parents, grandparents, if you are truly the sandwich generation, and you have a perspective now that could be helpful, there are so many volunteer opportunities in nursing facilities and assisted living facilities, because there are families just like them that are on that very front cusp of just stepping into whatever that, situation looks like. And the ease and the comfort that they can gather from volunteers and individuals who've already been through that and sharing that experience with others is so important. We have, in the facilities that I've worked with, we have had amazing volunteers whose parents have passed away and they just really enjoyed coming, and maybe they read to the residents, maybe they do crafts with them, maybe they do paint nails, maybe they just bring something, that they made from home. And, but there's just amazing volunteers out in the community that really make the day of residents and their families. And so I encourage people who have the time and opportunity, if they're retired or, if they just really enjoy that, to reach out to a facility that's close to you. Maybe it was the one that their loved one was in, and ask how they can be helpful, or ask how they can be a volunteer, because it's so needed.
That's a great idea. And if you truly are in the sandwich generation where you have children at home, bring your kids.
Yes.
There's nothing more that I love than to see 3 generations in the same room working together. Just that intergenerational. It's really good for children and for seniors too. So it's it's a win-win for everyone. Plus, you get your kids off of their screens, doing something for the community, connecting with old people so they can see they're not all these creepy, gross humans that they that are not relevant and to be avoided. I may have a teenager at home and I may hear some of these sentiments, but maybe it's time for us to get into a senior community and volunteer. But I love that. That's a great idea and a great way to learn how a community is ran, and maybe learn those questions that you don't know if you are helping a loved one, on their search. Yeah. So love that.
That is so true. And I can actually I know that is valuable to do, because one, Lisa, you and I both talk about doing those things when we were children and seeing those environments and how we still we remember it vividly till today. But I can also say, on the opposite side of working in a community, we used to have a lot of those intergenerational events where, it might be a dance group that comes in, or it would be a piano recital group that would come in and play for the residents. And then fast forward years down the road, that mom is coming back in and they're touring because they're like, well, I came because I remember coming here a couple times when I was a kid to play the piano, or when I brought my daughter, and I just remember how lovely the residents were, and so that's why we're here touring today. So it does help to go see those things in a non-committal tour, just your experience, and then it might transition to
completely different
years down the road. You're like, oh, I'm definitely not going there because now things changed. I will say that. Don't write someplace off just because you had maybe a negative experience or heard something bad years ago, because things change, administration changes, people in the, things do try to get better or fixed or whatever, so but yeah, I think if you can go in and do some things in a community that has nothing to do with that urgent need of trying to get somebody moved in and experience it just as a volunteer, or listening to something yourself, music, they do have some great events at some of these communities too.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah,
They do. Yeah. We see all of the events advertised just because the nature of our work, but
right.
um, and so somebody looking to get involved and volunteer, they could just look at the communities that are around them,
Mhm.
and reach out then, right? And maybe
Mhm.
reach out to a few and see which one might be a good fit or has the highest need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
I do remember going with Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
I went with the band. I remember playing my trumpet in the senior community where we lived, and it has changed pretty drastically over the years,
Mhm.
obviously. But yeah, that's
I
great.
can tell
Love
you
that.
that the residents light up when young people
Yeah,
come in, right? And
yeah.
so it's so fun to have them come in. There's been times where we've had littles, I want to say maybe kindergarten, first, second grade, or maybe it was even
Oh
Girl
yeah.
Scouts, and they come in and they do like a craft at Christmas time with the residents, and the residents
Hmm.
just love it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that they may remember that forever, right? And then the child will as well.
Mhm.
So I think it's really special.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
definitely.
just changing the perspective of young kids today,
Yeah.
because we just don't do that very much anymore. I don't know why, what changed, but getting them in front of seniors, and uh, it's really, really important. Especially, hello, those are the people who are going to be taking care of us, ladies.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, I
need
know.
them.
We need them to be
we,
true.
we need them to not, think that old people are gross and irrelevant. And
Isn't it so funny though? Like probably some of our best memories are with our grandparents, and maybe in our little minds we didn't see them as old people, older people. But then as you age, I think going back to normalizing conversations, we need to normalize, visiting or understanding
yeah.
that the aging process happens to all of us. We're all going to be
Mhm.
there. We're all going to
If you're
have.
lucky, if you're
That's right.
lucky.
If you're lucky. Yeah, absolutely. And so, things will happen where we're going to have our children are going to have those conversations with us, with you and me,
Hmm.
down the road. So yeah, I think it's, trying to help people put it in perspective.
Yeah, and the people that we are so lucky to work with, they have some of the most amazing stories. They're so wise, and they have just rich life experiences that we don't have because we're younger. We haven't lived as long, and especially children, uh, elementary students, and just have so much wisdom to impart. The coolest stories. Sarah,
Definitely.
I'm thinking
Mhm.
of that story that you just from your past client that you had uh, last week, the 9/11 guy. I mean, just the coolest stories.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we met him. I met him, Lisa.
Oh, you did. You
Yeah.
know the story too. Yeah,
Yes.
you were there.
Yeah.
Sarah was like at that closing Friday, and she was like, "Did you know blah blah blah?" And I was like, "Yes, he has the coolest stories."
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does. He didn't want to leave because he just kept telling stories and telling stories.
No,
Yeah.
his wife was
Yeah.
like, "Let's go." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
Yeah.
just one small sliver, though. Yeah.
that's right. Every resident has a story like that, and it's just
Mhm.
so special. And I think going back
Mm.
to, um, you know, using your resources as somebody who might be in that sandwich generation, and leaning on individuals like all of us on this podcast right now, who have experiences. But the direct caregivers, I always feel like are the people who have the best job because they get to learn all of those things. So
Mhm.
those of us that
Mhm.
are kind of a little bit on the outside, we kind of have to work to learn those things. And I think I think it's really special when they connect with their direct caregiver, because those caregivers know so much about them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I liken it to? As parents, we're raising our children, and we're so lucky to have a front row seat to their lives. I'm going to get emotional. I always get emotional when I talk about my kids, especially now that they're leading leaving the nest. But we are so lucky because we get a front row seat to their lives and we know them like no one else knows them. The same could be true for seniors living in a community, and that's kind of what you were talking about. If you are in a community where if they do have it's run very well and the team there does connect with the residents, they have the blessing to have a front row seat to that person's life right then and there as it is, where no one else gets that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I used to say that all the time. I'd be like, I have 156 grandmas and grandpas when I was working in the community, because that's how it felt. You know, you see them every day for sometimes 10 hours or more, you know, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. Sometimes you're spending time with them. So, you'd be surprised what someone that is with your parent or grandparent every day for that long can share with you that you don't know about them.
Yeah.
Actually, that is funny. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, had in-home care till the very end. And after a few of her caregivers came to my grandmother's funeral and were sharing some stories with my mom and her siblings that they didn't even know.
No.
And, you know, I just thought it was so neat that my mom and her siblings were captivated by some of the stories that my grandmother trusted somebody outside, you know, their circle to know.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really neat. You know, it told me that she trusted the caregivers. It told me that she was being well taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
That's very cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, we are already over 50 minutes.
I know.
Into
I knew this would go super fast and we would, okay. So if somebody's listening today and feeling overwhelmed because they're caring for aging parents while trying to keep up with their own lives, their children, careers, their house, everything else, what would you want them to hear from this podcast?
I think that I want them to hear they're not alone. There are many people going through similar situations, and there are people, trusted resources to be helpful to walk you through whatever those next steps are. And whether that just be gathering information, whether you're in an emergent situation and you need to make some decisions very quickly, there are people out there to help you, and just know that they're not alone.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you, Shannon, for spending some time with Lisa and I today.
Thank you for having me.
We have to remind our listeners to like, share, follow, comment, all the things, right?
Yep, please do.
Absolutely.
We'd love to respond to
There's
some
our
of your
banner.
comments.
I did that quick on the fly. I didn't even see what it said, but I thought it's the gist of it. Thank you for supporting the Sandwich Generation. Be sure to like, share, follow, comment, and that will help us get the word out to others, because we know there are others. Like you said, they're not alone.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
You guys too.